from red light camera experience we had here many years ago, you will get bombarded and deluged with some of the strangest emails you've ever seen in your life about how you're using Hollywood technology to superimpose their vehicle in this film and all kinds of crazy stuff like that. So just prepare. I'm just telling you, those red light cameras.
Do you have any cost information?
Well, that's what he was saying. They get the revenue.
It's covered by the traffic.
But it's got to be. All right, so Mark, will you get with Tim about coordinating the vendor or whoever?
Sure.
Y'all good with that? Okay. All right, next item up is discussion initiated by Councilman Adams related to the City of Hazel possibly becoming / establishing a partnership in education, IPA, partnership in education, among Tri-Cities, Hazel Charter Middle, and Hazel Career Academy, and Hazel Elementary School. Partners in Education, originally known as Adopt a School's purpose is to promote education by stimulating meaningful business and community involvement in public schools. Through individual partnerships with businesses, professional organizations, churches, civic clubs, and military units, schools have been able to tap into resources that help meet and exceed the individual needs of their student body, provide excellent educational programming, and recognize academic achievement. PI connects students, teachers, and administrators with business resources to increase the quality of education for future leaders. Councilman Adams recommends that the City of Hazel establish a PI program to partner with Tri-Cities High School, Hazel Charter Middle and Career Academy, and Hazel Elementary School to exchange resources, services, and other forms of support. The collaborative relationship would benefit both partners, but ultimately improves educational opportunities for children. Additionally, a more involved community aids in higher performing schools, thus having correlation on a city's viability and economic growth potential. Councilman Adams.
Yes, I had this idea after having the privilege of having Mr. Lindsay that's at Hapeville Charter Middle as well and Hapeville Career Academy, and Mr. Thomas Garrett at the elementary school to come and speak and basically laid out how the community could partner with them to help bridge the gap between a lack of community support or perceived lack of community support, as well as helping the students embrace their educational opportunities. So I came up with this idea here, thinking that would help bridge that gap. And I think that we could focus on improving student achievement through supporting programs that would improve attendance and other initiatives, as well as we can do probably like a newsletter article with supply to the school system as far as what's going on in the city, or focus on health or safety or something from that perspective there. We can also improve the teaching and learning environment through either donating supplies to the school and supporting outdoor classrooms or science labs. Additionally, to strengthen parent and community support of the schools and students by participating on advisory committees, displaying student artwork at business sites, inviting school choral band and dance groups to perform at city events, and participating on judging panels for school contests such as essays, spelling bees, science fairs, art shows, etc. And lastly, we can help improve the staff morale by supporting teacher recognition efforts to recognize and cultivate outstanding teachers, sponsor a staff appreciation and teacher of the year luncheon, and lastly, providing prizes for teacher appreciation week. Those are just some ideas that I thought with.
Excellent idea, Councilman Adams. That's something that I've said for years, one of our weaknesses in Hazel is the fact that we don't own schools, they own us. And this is, your initiative is exactly the city taking an investment. I'm going on October 31st and I'm going to dress up like a bear and I'm going to read to the kids. So those are the little things that we could do, but your recognition, and I like the idea of the bringing the teachers out and having a picnic for them. Stuff like that just goes great distances and bridging the gap that's there. Any other feedback from your perspective, Lloyd, being an educator yourself?
No, I think it's a great idea, especially, I actually did my practicum at Hayville Elementary years ago, and one of the things I noticed is that the teachers, the school is very local for us, but it's not very local for them. A lot of the teachers, sorry, I have something on here. They go to work and they go home, and so they don't really patronize the businesses and local things like that. And I know I had spoken with Holly Lovins and the principal about like what can we do to get some of the non-English speakers, their kids invest in some of the events that happen in the city, so then they'll bring their parents and they're excited about it. And that was one of the things that came up is like, you know, if the teachers are involved in these things, because there's a rule with county schools, you can't send home non-district materials with the kids, so like we couldn't send home a flyer. But if the teachers know about it, there's like some kind of mailing list, if we have specific events, invite them out. That's one way to get them in the community and get to know like what we really have here. Because you know, coming in at 7 and leaving at 3.
Yeah.
It's,
It would reap great rewards, I
Yeah.
can tell you that.
I think it's an awesome idea.
What's the next step?
Basically, I think that I'll proceed to the next steps being actually going to those schools and introducing the idea to see exactly what they have an appetite for it.
And is that something you're gonna take up?
Something that I could work with Tim on, see if I can better make that happen.
He was wondering what he was gonna do tomorrow.
Office tomorrow.
I think this is something that we can, not immediate, I think this is something that we can look at probably the first quarter of 2019, for us doing. When do you think is better for school year?
I would say like towards the end of the semester and beginning of the semester.
Okay.
Nothing after March, nothing in August or September.
Okay.
So,
Sounds like that's your own.
That's what that's
calendar, yeah.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Sound good? Next item up is discussion initiated by Councilman Alexander on home brewing competition ordinance. Councilman Alexander would like to initiate a discussion to have a possible ordinance that would allow for home brewing competitions. Attached is a home brewing special events ordinance from Avondale Estates that can be reviewed by legal and modified as necessary to comply with Hafel's existing code, and review what changes, if any, would need to be made to the city's ordinance to allow for home brewing competitions. Microbrewing has become more popular in the South. Councilman Alexander feels that adjusting the code to allow for brewing would make Hapeville an ideal destination for local and regional competitions. So making beer in the house.
well, Georgia's becoming a beer
Oh, man.
destination. It used to be just Athens, but now it's kind of all over the state, and even Hapeville surprisingly is known as a beer town with Arches and Beer Girl. And even now with the Lee and White development, Monday Night Garage, and some of the development that's happening over there that's centered around Monday Night Brewing. And a lot of the beers that people enjoy. Monday night started in someone's house.
You did.
Arches started in
That's
someone's
the
house.
Arches.
We have Nappy Roots right here in Hayville. So I just think it would be something that could open us up to more opportunities and just be friendly to kind of the businesses we already have here to participate and cultivate those types of relationships with those organizations as well.
Did you want some direction so that legals could start looking at that Avondale Estates ordinance?
Yeah, there's a few of our neighbors. Atlanta has one, Stockbridge has one. I think Avondale Estates was the simplest. That doesn't mean it's the best. Just as a starting point to see how it fits into what.
More beer the merrier, as far as I'm concerned.
I second
Actually, I
that.
had a neighbor before he moved back to his house in East Point. He would do brewing at his house.
Cool.
So, yeah, just to see where this fits, if we need to do a larger adjustment, if it's reasonable to do so, and if it works, perhaps have it as first reading.
Is it the consensus of council to let legal start working on this?
Not opposed.
Travis?
Councilman Horsley? Okay, he's good. Okay, rock and roll. Next item up is discussion initiated by Councilman Alexander on LED safety crossing lights for highly trafficked school routes. After hearing concerns voiced regarding crosswalks and pedestrian safety, Councilman Alexander would like to explore the feasibility of placing flashing LED crosswalk signs at crosswalks that are highly trafficked by school children in the morning. There are no crossing guards present in these areas, and it's often dark when the students cross early in the morning. Streets identified are Russell Wheeler and Parkway, South Central Avenue and South Fulton, Oak Drive and Dogwood, North Avenue and North Fulton, and King Arnold and Clare Drive. So are those solar powered lights that, is that what you're talking about, that light up when somebody's in the crosswalk?
Yeah, so when you hit the button, and usually there's a button installed, even if there isn't a red light, it's way brighter than the regular hanging light. And there is a crossing guard at King Arnold and Clare, but she's not there every day. And that area is lit on one side, but not, it's still pretty dark. They just recently replaced the bulbs with LEDs, but it's still pretty dark in the mornings. And then there is a crossing guard at North Fulton and North and North Fulton, but again, it's not illuminated on both sides. I just think it would add an extra safety measure. In addition to that, there are a lot of middle school students who walk over to the church, and they dart across North Central. I saw a kid almost get hit by a car the other day.
Yeah,
It is just mindful of the fact that that is a short crossing period, and I think that came up with the 4 and 2. And so it'd be like 3 seconds, and kids are running through that crosswalk across the railroad tracks. So I think it would be a good investment just to increase the safety.
Do you have an idea of what the average cost per intersection is?
When I looked, it was vastly, this is not my expertise.
A wide range of pricing.
Right.
But you know what though, over by Chastain Park, if I'm not mistaken, I think those, they have ones, but they're solar.
Yeah.
And they're, I think it was donated by UPS or something, on the plaque. But I can't confirm that, but yeah. That's what I think this is like a plaque that says donated by UPS or something.
I'm gonna get Delta and Porsche.
I believe that's on GMA, on their grant website recently. And, DCA also have a list of possible grants for street crossings. Some funding was cut early, I do know, for some of the street crossing grants for kids areas, but I think, this could possibly be just about energy spots as well, might be a minimal cost.
Do you think this could be just about on T-Plus?
I
Lee's shaking his head
think
yes.
signage.
Yeah, Lee's shaking his head yes.
Could it be part of a CDBG grant as well, or no?
That might be a little more
No,
complicated.
But T-Splosh for sure,
Yeah.
because it's safety.
Yeah.
Pedestrian
Yeah.
enhancements. So is it council's desire to delve a little deeper into this?
Get costs, accurate costs.
Yes.
Okay.
Some cost and some opportunities.
Okay. All right, so Tim, another thing on your list. Lee, you ain't got anything else to do, do you? Okay, next item up is discussion initiated by Councilman Alexander on the current cost of waste disposal, recycling, and yard debris pickup, as well as alternatives. Councilman Alexander would like to initiate a discussion on exploring the advantages or disadvantages and costs of outsourcing solid waste services. She would like an overview of the current cost of solid waste pickup, including garbage, yard debris, and recycling. Additionally, the state of the city's recycling center is an ongoing concern, and she would like to discuss the cost of eliminating the recycling center and replacing it with curbside pickup. Councilman Alexander?
Yeah, I really just wanted to initiate a discussion and be transparent about how much it costs and to do a comparison of what privatization would cost us. It's a tough word. In addition to that, the option of outsourcing recycling. I've said it many times, just what I know about recycling and contamination and what recyclers are paying for currently. I do believe that the recycling is being picked up and delivered. It's impossible that it's actually being recycled. There are recyclers that will throw out an entire ton of plastic because one bottle has something in it. So there's issues with single stream recycling. If it's not monitored what is being put in the bins, paper and cardboard cannot be recycled if they're wet, even if after they're dried. And so that was the main impetus behind this, is figuring out what it would actually cost. I know a lot of neighbors over there complain about the state of the.
I get mad every time I go.
Yeah.
I think Lee has a comment, not to put him on the spot, but you and I had some discussions about the recycling center.
I know you've emailed me about the problems and why the solution is tough, and that makes sense. I know places where I go to recycle, there are tons of volunteers there constantly. And if you mix something in the wrong bin, you get yelled at, so you learn really quickly not to do it. And so just for people to see, yes, that's an eyesore, but if we want recycling, and if we want curbside recycling, what is that gonna cost? The discussion Councilman Adams brought up about how taxing it is to pick up the yard debris. I have stopped putting my yard debris on the curb. But when I first moved to Hapeville, I learned if we put anything on the curb, they will pick it up.
Yeah, we definitely have residents that have grown quite accustomed to that, and it's gonna be a hard habit to break. But we're at a crossroads right now with the cost of this, though, because if we're gonna continue to be in the solid waste business, we need to charge accordingly. And that means probably significant increases in the fees that we charge.
And
The thing that concerns me about, I'm sorry.
no, that's what made me think too. What is the increase versus someone else doing it for us?
The concern that I have about privatization of trash pickup especially is right now, our employees know our residents. So if Mrs. Smith has had surgery and she can't get her trash can down the hill, our men and women will go pick it up, and goes back to your concierge level services. And of course, privatization, I can almost guarantee you that won't happen, because I've seen those private trash crews, and you're lucky if they set the garbage can back straight on the ground without knocking it over. So I've got some grave concerns about the quality of service. But again, if we can't charge enough to sustain, and we're missing, Lee and I have had this discussion too, we're missing a lot of manicure stuff that we could be doing, because our staff is they're overwhelmed. There's no way they can keep up. And the streetscapes we do create more beds, and we don't have the time to maintain them. So again, we have to do one of two things: either charge more or look at options. And I've been a strong opponent of privatization for years, but I've reached the point where my scales have tipped on this.
And that's what I'm looking for, just long-term, sustainable.
Behind this too, there's like, you're
Oh,
getting
we're talking.
30 times.
Man, Travis,
I can hear
we can't.
Repeat yourself, Travis.
I was just saying, it's over 1,530 tons a year in yard debris versus, I believe it was 1,536 tons in yard debris, 1,221 tons per year in solid waste. And talking with East Point, they kept their solid waste public, but then they privatized their recycling, and I believe it's $425 a month added to their bill. So.
No, I was saying I was looking for a long-term sustainable solution, and just coming from where I grew up, we went from private to public, and it was a transition, but we survived.
For public and private, you mean?
Private to public.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Public to private.
Public to private. It was privatized, and there was a lot of upset because we went from having 2 containers to 1, and we went from 2 days pickup to just 1 day, and then having to bundle your yard debris and things like that. But the cost was cheaper. I don't know if the city of Hapeville will see the same increases.
We've already been through, we used to have twice a week backyard pickup, and we went to once a week curbside. You'd have thought that the world was gonna come to an end. So,
But then, we also have to keep in mind too that we have an aging fleet of vehicles related to trash and garbage pickup. And so, yeah, what would the actual cost analysis look like versus one transportation or keep it public? But I think that's something else that we have to add into the equation as well. And I'll defer to Lee after we get comments.
Yeah, we're at a crossroads with our fleet because our newest garbage truck is a 2011. Everything, our 2-leaf trucks and all the other garbage trucks are over 15 years old. So we're just breaking even right now. We're at a point to where next year we're going to have significant increases in solid waste to pay for that garbage truck. Avondale Estates offers basically the same service as us, and they charge $43. We charge $20. And it's just the reality. We're to a point now where something has to be done. I have fought privatization also, but if you look at the numbers, we can't continue to pick up the way we've been picking up. The fleet's old. We don't have time. We just opened a new park. We don't have time to take care of it. Our guys are out picking up piles that are big as cars. Something has to happen, or next year it's going to be. And I think from talking with waste haulers, we still could get the yard free pickup, the garbage, and you also can get curbside recycling for about what we're paying now. So I do think that's something we need to look at. And then we can allocate our forces to other things
Yes.
like signage, pruning tree limbs. Right now, we're pulling people from one thing to another. And at some point, the solid waste is going to catch up to us as far as the cost. And it's going to be equipment. Our bucket truck's a 1985. I mean, everything we've got is plastic, basically.
yeah.
Just something to.
They still got 8-track players on them.
Right. So what we had talked about was, because the recycling is tied to the commercial dumpsters, going out with RFP in January or February and see what we get. It doesn't mean we have to go with it, but we can get a feel. But otherwise, you're going to have significant increases in solid waste coming up next couple of years.
Yeah, I would recommend putting RFPs out.
Yeah.
And let's then come back and
Let's
analyze them and discuss which way, because as Lee says, by sometime next calendar year, these decisions are going to have to be made. That's going to come quick.
Yeah.
I think it's a good RFP. One of the things we need to seriously think about though is in a combination of solid waste for recycling, and solid waste recycling, and refuse. So maybe getting pricing if it's all 3, pricing if it's 2, pricing if it's 1, and make it clear that the expectation is scaling up and having all 3 would be sort of kept. It's like economies of scale. So,
Okay.
that's the way that it works to our advantage. Yeah.
So can we work on a non-binding RFP?
Request for information, just information gathering. And then if the information gathering stage comes back as something that's positive, then we could go out with an RFP, or just an RFP that basically declares that we're not binding ourselves to an actual action. I mean, non-action on this case would be to keep it public. So.
Okay.
All right.
I don't think we can make that decision without numbers, so I think we need numbers. So y'all want to shoot for January of next calendar year?
If we're just getting numbers, I think we can get it earlier than that and then shoot for an RFP in January, February.
We've got preliminary numbers that say that we can do it for around about what we're charging now. So, I mean, and that would include one garbage pickup, one solid waste, or a yard debris pickup, one bulk pickup, and one recycling. That'd be bi-weekly.
Sounds good.
Every 2 weeks, you would get recycling pickup, so.
Maybe we should get some numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get your negotiate numbers next.
Sure.
Yeah.
We'll pack it together for us.
I mean, and you can pretty much, any city around, we've kind of asked the waste hauler, how much are you charging in this city? Now, that might vary because there's more rooftops in other cities.
Right.
So our price may still higher, but I've already talked to our waste hauler, and they've already said, yes, we feel like we can keep you at your, what we're charging our citizens now, maybe below.
Okay. All right. We good with that? Okay. All right, next item up is discussion initiated by Tim Young on regulations for complimentary wine in nail salons, spas, etc. The city of Hayesville has service businesses, particularly of the nail salon and spa type, that deal with customer service, customer experience, where customers may be attended to for an extended amount of time. More and more businesses of this type either offer or want to offer a complimentary glass of wine. Our current code does not readily afford the opportunity as written. Staff has asked legal counsel and zoning to provide suggestions for mayor and council for discussion. So what do y'all think of that?
I think Randy would go with that.
And talking with the new Florida Strong 2018 Florida concepts that just opened up, they like to be able to serve a complimentary wine, but they're doing like a floral viewing with like a bride. Or say like a bride and her mother comes in, they're looking to purchase sort of the same way that they're going to a nail shop or getting their hair done. That's one of the services that they like to provide there too. So
Your bride's mother can often lead to drinking.
He said the bride's mother can often lead to drinking. Lead you to drinking.
I fully understand that.
And I'll just recapitulate what Councilman Horsley said, is speaking of as well. For Bliss, I was been in communication with Bliss and with Tim as well. The new nail shop here, and they are interested in being able to provide the same type of service when you come in and get your manicure and pedicure as well.
I really think from a perspective of it being business friendly, what somebody does in the confines of their business as far as something like that goes is really, as long as they're not doing crazy things, I don't really see why we would have a problem with it. To me, it's a private sector matter, you know, so. Again, I think our caution in some of this has been that people don't try to take one business and make something out of it that it wasn't created to be. That's where you've got to have some rules, because then somebody might have a sham business just so they can, you know, slip that in under the radar. So I'm fine. I'm cool with it myself. So we need some proposed language.
We'll take the proposed language, we've got a couple of options, we'll look at a couple more, and I think we can bring something at the next council.
That's fine. Y'all good with that? Consensus?
Anything specifically that you can think of that we definitely want to include?
I would say nail salons, hair salons,
Not so much places, but.
oh,
Proper limit the number of drinks.
yeah.
Okay.
Or limit liquor and malt
Well, that's
beverages,
true, yeah.
so it's just wine and champagne?
Well, I think the intent.
I'd say beer and wine only, no liquor.
Complimentary means one.
Yeah.
That's mine.
I was gonna say-
That's probably not a universal.
I was gonna say no more than two.
But you can, I've seen places do like champagne, I've seen places do
But you don't want to walk in and have a full bar.
full bar. Yeah.
That's right, that's where you're running the problem.
Pay to get a complimentary glass of wine.
Yeah.
Gotta drink it up before it runs out of bubbles. Well, why don't we have the language come back and then it can be, we would hammer out those details later.
Procedure when I sign up. So.
Okay, all right, sir.
Travis is exiting the meeting at 8:40 PM.
He inquired because executive session tonight. Did you?
Yes, we did.
Okay, if I can connect together on, I'll into the web so not, okay.
Roger Wilco, take care. Have fun, whatever you're doing. Okay. All right. City manager report, Mr. Young.
Got a couple of updates. Downtown Live and Chili Cook-Off is this Friday, beginning at 7 o'clock. Our film series for this week is, Charles, what's the name of it?
Sandinista.
Sandinista.
Right.
It's on the 26th.
That's on the 26th. Okay. Trees Atlanta is this Saturday, and we have trunk or treat at Master Park.
It's clean and beautiful, not trees and one.
Okay, we can get, okay. And that's at 6 p.m. On the 31st. The town hall report from our moderator, we're working on the kind of final draft of it right now, so that should be delivered next week to mayor and council. And our audit preparation is continuing, the audit should be in on the 5th of November.
Okay. All right. At this time, I'll open the floor for comments from the public, and I'll start on my right. You can ask a question or make a comment about anything your heart desires. On my left, Ms. Stone. You state your name and address for the record, please.
Susan Stone, 431 Walnut Street. Concerning the restaurants, I am a big fan of food trucks, but food trucks weren't mentioned in the list of eateries. And they're really big, all over the country now, especially in cool artsy places, so.
We're working on a food truck ordinance. It's a separate ordinance, yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, that wasn't mentioned.
Yes, ma'am. That's a different discussion.
Well, it is eatery, it's a restaurant of sorts, with picnic tables, et cetera, so you can sit down and enjoy that seasonally, I guess.
Yes, ma'am.
As far as the recycling goes, I would love to see the town get behind a real PR campaign to encourage the residents to recycle seriously, you know? And I think they will have a better chance of it succeeding if they really are hearing from you and from their neighbors, and we get behind it, you know? We've heard prediction about global warming and consumer. Let's face it, we've got to get on board with recycling and get serious about it. As far as the whatever it is, the surveillance cameras, I'm not a real fan of those. I don't like the idea that the citizens are going to have yet another drain on them from surveillance cameras, so that some company is going to make a profit. Already, you know, they've got enough of a drain on them. You know, let's try to have, if we're talking about alcohol here and alcohol there, you know, unless it's a real problem, unless there is a real problem, let's not do it. That's my thing.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other comments on my left? Cheryl?